Consulting the philosophy section of any library reveals a predominance of works that are demanding to read, whose comprehension presupposes both mastery of specialized jargon and prior familiarity with the theoretical tradition. By contrast, general introductions, intended for a non-specialist audience, are relatively scarce, and it is uncommon to find texts that explain the discipline's fundamental problems without either oversimplifying them or assuming substantial prior knowledge. More than a century after it was first published, The Problems of Philosophy remains one of the standard introductions to the field. In this relatively short work, Bertrand Russell sets out to explain the central questions of philosophy to the general reader. It is important to note that Russell's most significant contributions emerged in the highly abstract and complex field of mathematical logic. Principia Mathematica, co-authored with Alfred North Whitehead, constitutes a seminal landmark in the discipline, representing an attempt to ground mathematics in a rigorous logical foundation. Although Russell did not resolve all of the problems he set out to address, and some of the difficulties he identified led to subsequent developments that undermined aspects of his project, most notably Kurt Gödel's demonstration that no logical mathematical system can be simultaneously complete and consistent. The significance of Russell's work in this area is widely recognized. At the same time, Russell's philosophical influence proved remarkably broad. He was a prolific writer, and so prominent a figure that many of his contemporaries structured their own writings in direct response to his ideas. Regarded as a founder of analytic philosophy, this movement sought to bring philosophical reflection into closer alignment with common sense. Russell opposed the unwarranted use of obscure concepts and unnecessary jargon, arguing that a careful analysis of language and precision in the use of words would suffice to dissolve most philosophical problems. He likewise adopted the principle of Occam's razor, which favors simpler explanations over more complex models. In this respect, he exerted a strong influence on the early intellectual development of his disciple Ludwig Wittgenstein, although he later came to distance himself from Wittgenstein's subsequent and more complex formulations. In retrospect, Russell's lasting influence outside the realm of mathematical logic appears relatively limited, standing out primarily for the reactions his ideas provoked among thinkers of his time. Nevertheless, he enjoyed unquestionable prestige during his lifetime. His literary output is characterized by a remarkable diversity of subjects. Displaying an almost compulsive inclination to express his views, he addressed a vast range of topics. His essay in defense of idleness constitutes a work of considerable merit. His writings on pacifism and disarmament reveal a radical and deeply committed stance. And the remainder of his work ranges from ethical reflection to the theory of relativity. Published in 1912, The Problems of Philosophy remains a fluid and accessible work of philosophical introduction. Despite occasional traces of condescension or aristocratic detachment in its tone, Russell's primary aim is to present the foundations of philosophy in the most accessible manner possible. He deliberately limits his analysis to problems that can be treated briefly and reasonably. Rather than merely describing each question in the abstract, he outlines relatively simple proposals for answering it, an approach that makes the book an exemplary introduction. In each chapter, he formulates a problem and examines a possible solution, inviting the reader to reflect on the significance of the question at hand. Disagreement with the solutions proposed is itself an integral part of the process of learning to philosophize, insofar as the discipline is grounded in debate among divergent perspectives and in an ongoing intellectual dialogue, rather than in the mere assimilation of a static repository of problems and answers. The problem of knowledge occupies a central position in the work, consistent with its enduring status throughout the history of philosophy. Russell begins by asking what degree of certainty we can actually attain concerning knowledge, a complex question that has preoccupied thinkers from Plato to Descartes, Locke, and Hume. He provides an introductory survey of the historical responses to this question, while also presenting his own perspective on the distinction between appearance and reality. He subsequently addresses such topics as idealism, the existence of matter, the problem of induction, which raises the question of whether it is possible to know with certainty that the sun will rise tomorrow, and the limits of philosophical inquiry. In sum, the problems of philosophy is at once instructive, remarkably perceptive, and, at times, paternalistic in tone. Although in certain respects it may appear dated, given the development of philosophy throughout the 20th century, it remains one of the most suitable choices for anyone seeking an introductory answer to the fundamental question: what is philosophy about?